like who you are. And you look gorgeous, and I look like the fucking bag lady from the labyrinth.
You're very cozy.
Okay, ready?
Let's go.
Everyone has a story. And we're so used to seeing the best of everyone, the confident, the accomplished, the ones who seem to take up space effortlessly. But how often do we get to hear about what it took to really get there?
In this series, we go beyond those polished moments. We talk to people about where they started, the real challenges they faced, and what they had to clear out to make space for the life they wanted. Join us as we uncover the truth behind the journey and celebrate every messy, powerful step it took to show up.
So I first met Jazz Kirby when she came to me for private coaching. And there were stories, there were behaviors that weren't really resourceful. Since starting that work, Jazz has gone on to train as an inner work coach for Soci Support, a charity committed to helping single mums transform their lives through a minimum 12-month inner work process. She's also got her own private coaching business and is just going from strength to strength in this world of inner work.
Welcome, Jazz.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Now
lovely
that,
introduction.
I was going to say, that's a pretty schmick little intro. But I'm more interested in who you really are. Tell us who you are.
Like behind the coach.
Yeah.
I am obviously an English gal living in Australia, living my dream. Finally. But it wasn't always that way. But I love my little sidekick dog. I love the beach and nature. I love my weightlifting, and yeah, just building my dream life here in Australia.
I love that. Now, Jess and I, as everyone knows, as we tell everyone all the time, are a mother-daughter team with all the messiness that goes along with that. How did your familial relationships shape your ability or inability to take up space?
Oh, in every single way. I guess it starts with like when I was really, really little, my mum and dad splitting up, and my mum and dad were really young when they had me, like they were basically still children themselves. So there was some unresourceful behaviors that they had that I guess would have initiated that original abandonment wound. And then went on to source some wonderful people that would further back up that wound. And put myself into some really great scenarios that would also further back up that wound.
Well, fun at the time though, right?
Oh, right, yeah. Lots of fun was had for sure, yeah. Yeah. But what that led to eventually was massive feelings of imposter syndrome, not being worthy, and this belief that I would eventually always be abandoned. And of course, my subconscious patterns continued to back that up too.
Right.
So it took a lot of work.
Yeah, it did. It did take a lot
Yeah.
of work. So back then, because I think innate in all of us is we want to be seen and we want to be heard. How did you sort of take up space back then? What was that like? What were the sort of behaviors, the thoughts, the beliefs?
I guess as a teenager, it was rebellion. It was going out and doing all the things that I knew my family wouldn't want me to be doing. I would say I was a challenging teenager for sure. I've definitely apologized to my mother
I
as an
wouldn't know
adult.
anything about that.
Again, lots of fun, lots of fun. Sometimes I look back and I'm like very grateful that I made it through like largely unscathed.
Yes.
And then I guess as an adult, it what I would consciously try to take up space, but it wouldn't be in a very resourceful way. I would come across as quite hard, maybe like aggressive in my delivery, because underneath it, I was terrified of speaking up and taking space. So it would come out really badly and not as I intended it to.
And how has that changed?
Well, it's a lot better now. It's still something that I still feel like fear sometimes for, like a little bit, but I'm much more in control of it now. But it took working with you and working with numerous coaches to work through my subconscious patterns. Um, and then it off the back of that, it takes practice, like actually putting in the sets and the reps of like working out what my boundaries are, upholding my boundaries, communicating about my boundaries. And at first, that wasn't great, but it's a skill that I have continually honed and continue to do so.
So on boundaries, I'm really interested. So how long ago was it that you moved over here?
Just over
Well,
10
okay, I'm
years.
in the UK now, so this is confusing. Moved to Australia.
Yeah. Almost 11 years ago.
And I'm interested in 11 years ago, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm assuming the boundaries thing we weren't clear.
Not
We were
great.
with them. We weren't.
Not great. What were they? Don't have those.
So I'm interested in what was there any part of moving to Australia that was like this'll fix it, or I won't have to have this conversation, or
Running
we'll
away?
never have to touch on this again if I just
Absolutely. I mean, initially I was only meant to be here for a year, but I did always have it in the back of my head that perhaps that would present an opportunity to stay. But there were some pretty, what's the word? Pretty massive challenges with my family at the time. And also, I had just split up with my partner who I lived with, and he'd moved in around the corner with his new girlfriend. So I was having to walk past him and his work van and them and their kids and stuff every day on the way to work, which was not helping the healing process.
you
So I
yeah.
was like, opportunity to go to the other side of the world. So pick me, pick me.
And
Yes.
when you landed, so when you touched down, was it a feeling of okay, this is freedom. I get to be exactly who I want to be now, or was it oh fuck. Okay, I'm still here. Like do you remember that feeling?
I don't know if it was conscious at the time, to be honest. Um, I certainly realized pretty quickly that the family issues were still there. Like, yes, I guess distance and time zone differences make it slightly less immediate, but I was in this place of being the rescuer at the time. Like I felt like I had to be the strong one and look after everyone and stuff. And I wanted to run away from that, but also at the same time, once I got here, I didn't let go of that. I still continued to do that for years. So shit came with me.
Okay, so how did you then have to? Because this idea of taking up space, it means a lot of things. It's whatever it means to you. What did it involve in flipping your mindset from becoming a rescuer to being able to unapologetically live as you and show up as you? Like how,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not sure if we can touch on it all in a half-hour chat, but what was how was that process for you?
Um, like the family stuff, particularly, I think Kat and another coach of mine have had quite like firm conversations with me about how I was actually enabling. And I was like, didn't really like it at the time, but couldn't say that they were wrong. Um, so yeah, that was a thing. That was something I had to reflect on. And then now that I was in that space of personal development and actually wanting to change, like ultimately it was something that I would action and take and make change on.
Yeah.
But it's uncomfortable as fuck. It's not what I wanted to hear.
Right? Welcome to the world of inner work.
Right.
Welcome to the world of having to talk with your family.
I know, right? Actually acknowledge all the stuff.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Uncomfortable as fuck. Yeah,
Yes.
correct.
My favorite though is when we can angrily weaponize coach language. When
Oh,
you have
yes.
to really- when the person that you're trying to have a conversation with also has very strong boundaries, and you're like, all right, can we just take this up a level? I'll use a longer syllable word. I'll use a
Yeah.
Yeah. So these days, okay, let's fast forward. You did do all the icky work. You did go there. You did change your relationships. I know that your mum came out recently.
Yeah.
How was that?
Like the best time we've ever spent together.
Right.
Since I was like a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the ripple effect of me doing the work was that ultimately she would see the change in me and she would do the work too. And that's had a huge impact on our relationship and how we communicate and our enjoyment of the time that we spend together.
Right. Because she has done the work, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Which was cool.
Yeah.
Very cool to see people that you care deeply about actually go, this is a thing, let's do it.
So she saw the change in you and wanted to take that on herself, or was it a conversation that you had, where you kind of suggested, how did that happen?
I agree. I was really surprised that she would even be open to it though, because she is an occupational therapist by trade. Like she's very into science, evidence-based stuff, like wants to see statistics and studies and that sort of thing. So when I started training to be a coach in modalities that were quite different to that, I honestly didn't think that she would have a bar of it at all. But when I started training and I was like, look, do you mind if I practice some processes on you? And she was like, yeah, cool. So she got to get a taster of it.
Back to me.
Yeah. It's not a scam though. Yeah.
Started doing the work.
And next thing you know, she's 18 months into it and changing her life.
Yeah. Next thing, you're sucked into it, you're making the changes, and life just gets bigger.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm really curious, given that so much has changed, and also given that in order to keep this space, and that most of the world does not do inner work. So what is like a small ritual or habit that you swear by that keeps you grounded and in touch with what really matters?
I have quite a few rituals.
I was going to say there might be a few. I'm curious.
I think space and like time, giving like myself the space to have quiet time, reflective time, and to have that time in nature as much as possible has been massive for me. Like I used to listen to my mum say, there's just something about being near bodies of water that's really grinding. And as a kid, I just didn't really get it. Now I get it. Like I can feel it in my body. So I'm very privileged to live where I do, and getting to the beach every day, putting my bare feet on the earth and just actually taking some time to just stop and breathe and be present keeps me in the moment as much as possible. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I love that. And also as well, I mean, I was talking to a client today and we were talking about self-love and how
me too.
You can, right? You cannot live with authenticity and integrity until you start with self-love. Because otherwise you're carrying resentments and shoulds and have tos, and it's not authentic.
Other people's expectations.
right?
Right.
All the stuff.
Yeah.
All the stuff. And I'm interested in Brene Brown says that the opposite of belonging is fitting in, right? Because with belonging, you're totally accepted. You are you, you're there. Whereas fitting in, it's the mask. So where are you with all about that?
I think I'm in a really good spot now because I'm made a, like when I moved to the coast and basically started all over again with everything, I bar a couple of people, I created a whole new friendship group, and I very consciously went to events where there would be like-minded people, so it wasn't just like straight up business networking, it was like woo-woo, coaches, spiritual, all that sort of thing. And I have, because of that, I'm very lucky that I have a really aligned group of women around me now that are super accepting and aren't judgmental, and they encourage me to be a dork or be cheeky or be silly and playful, and that's really refreshing because that's not something I'd experienced much before. I really only had one friend where I felt like I could be like that.
So with that, and again, let's harp on about taking up space. How does having people who know you and love you and encourage you to be you, how does that help you then from that move into the space?
I think it gives you such a level of reassurance that you can feel safe to be vulnerable and be silly and playful, right? Because I know, because of the work I've done and the people I've consciously selected to have in my life, that I won't be judged and I will be accepted. So I feel safe to be myself.
Yeah.
Which is really
How does
cool.
that feel?
Really beautiful.
Yeah.
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 It's awesome.
This really leads into, I want to ask another question about rituals, and I'm more than happy to cut this if you're not comfortable discussing it. But I know that one of your rituals or one of your habits or practices that you do is microdosing, and that's something that you've had to work to. If you are comfortable discussing that, I would be really interested to know, with that idea of being safe, being yourself, being open to new things, what have you had to, you can't hide from yourself when you're in your own head. So what have you kind of had, what are the processes or some of the steps that you've had to take to clear your shit so that you can do this and use it as a real tool rather than an escape or something like that?
Yeah. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize until they start doing microdosing is that it actually magnifies whatever you're currently experiencing. So if you're anxious as hell already, it's going to magnify that. It's going to bring that shit to the surface even more, which can get really uncomfortable. So, well, look, I definitely needed support of someone who's experienced in both microdosing and also somatics as well at the time. I'm really grateful that I had that, and committing to the somatic practices whilst doing the microdosing. Like, you might do microdosing and have a really lovely experience of it, but when you are doing it intensely, like a 30-day course of it, it's next level to just doing it one off here and there. Like the first few days are like lovely, hunky-dory, everything feels nice and warm and nice. And then after about and this has been an experience of a few of us now actually, like after about day 4 or 5, stuff starts coming up, right? And then it starts coming up real quick. And you could very quickly just get stuck in your shit.
Yeah, cool. And so I mean, like everything, it's not a quick fix, unfortunately.
No. And you have to take responsibility and accountability for yourself in that process too.
And do you have to pre-ritual, like, is there something that if you're going to be using this for for healing or clearing or inspiration
Hmm.
or whatever it takes.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you are in the right frame of mind to do it?
I would always recommend, like, before you physically take your microdose, actually setting an intention for that day, and then having a process of reflection to see like how that actually went during that day, and also
Mhm.
committing to the somatic practices throughout the day to actually be able to self-manage yourself through that process,
So
and being able
interesting.
to reach out for help if you need to as well.
And I
Mhm.
think
Because
that's
sometimes
the
you can't do it
thing
all alone.
with, right? The thing with plant medicine is that there is ritual, technique, process.
Yeah, that always has been, right?
Correct. And that,
Massively rich.
I guess that's what made it sacred, and all of
Mm,
those rituals sacred, because there is purpose behind the ritual.
yes.
It's
Yeah.
not just for fun, or we're just gonna, it's
Hmm.
because it's about, yeah, the intention setting and all of that. And
Yes.
yeah, so it's been a huge journey for you, a
Yeah.
big, like, over the love, right? There's been a lot of stuff, and we've just touched on it. So can you think of, or can you give us one big aha moment that changed how you see yourself, and how you, that then allowed you to step in, and how you saw those around you? And yeah, or if a
There was
penny dropped.
definitely there was definitely something with how I saw people around me, and that was something that you've always said, is that people are always doing the best they can with the tools and resources they've got, but they might just have some really shitty tools and resources, right? Like, most people aren't bad people and they're not intending to do you harm, but they just don't
Mm,
know any better. That
mm.
definitely switched how I perceived people. I stopped perceiving people as like villains and innately bad and out to get me. um the how like changing the perception of myself, that's a massive one though, because that's like been such a long process. Like, it wasn't a one moment, I don't think. I think a pivotal thing for me has been just I guess remembering that I always get to choose. So I have all of these insights and tools, and I've made all of these shifts and stuff, but the people around me haven't necessarily done that stuff, and they're still going to behave the same potentially. Reminding myself in those moments that I get to choose what I make that mean about me, if anything, and I get to choose how I respond, and how differently the outcomes of those scenarios are because of that. When I choose that it doesn't mean anything about me and I don't need to respond. Massively impactful on my experience of people and people's experience of me.
Yeah, yeah.
So over the weekend, I watched an Aubrey Plaza movie called My Old Ass, where her 18-year-old self does a bunch of mushrooms and then she meets her 39-year-old
Oh
self.
my God, I need to watch this.
Really good. Wow. And so the 39-year-old self tries to get the 18-year-old self to not do a thing because that
Mhm,
thing caused a lot of pain in the future.
mhm.
Um, I am interested if you were to be summoned to the past or to meet
Oh
your
God.
18-year-old self because they'd done a bunch of mushrooms, or if
Yeah,
you just wanted to sit down and have a
my
couple
man.
with them. um, A, is there anything that you would change? And B, what would you what would you say to them about the person that they're going to become, or taking up
Mhm.
space and standing their ground?
Look, there's definitely been a lot of painful moments that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have that again. But then if they hadn't have happened, then I probably wouldn't be who I am now. I wouldn't have learnt the lessons that I've learnt, and that wouldn't have triggered the change in who I am. So would I get rid of them? No, probably not, even though a lot of them were undesirable. What would I tell myself? Probably to learn to love myself sooner and make myself my number one priority. Because the people pleasing and self-abandoning and like it's led to so much dumb shit.
It's just fucking exhausting, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is really cool advice. I mean, yeah, we could all do with a little bit of telling our 18-year-old selves that it's gonna be okay.
Right.
That this stuff that you'll be really, really cool one day and it won't look anything like the way you think it's gonna look now.
Totally not. Totally not.
Or you could be in Edinburgh in -7 degrees looking like a homeless person.
I wish I was in Edinburgh.
I'm not
I'm
Edinburgh,
just looking like a homeless person.
Glasgow,
I just fit
looking
in.
like that. Yeah, it's like, yeah. Why did I say Edinburgh? You don't even, maybe that's my unconscious wanting to head back to Edinburgh.
I don't know. You're trying to put some status on me.
Yeah, I am.
Sign me up a bit. Jazz, thank you so much for having a chat with us today and just being open and sharing the stuff that isn't always shiny and sparkly and Edinburgh, if you will.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Is there anything else that you would like to share? Anything that you've got going on that you'd like to share with people?
Yes, you do have something going on.
I have a few things going on, actually.
Plug it.
I am currently launching my first ever group coaching program for the new year called Vision and Action, and that's all around not just setting goals, but setting value aligned goals, understanding what's getting in your way and clearing that out of the way for good, and then creating a reverse engineered 12-month plan to walk away to actually action those goals and actually have the capacity to do it because you've cleared all of the blockers out of the way, which I'm pretty excited about.
Amazing. So literally you've got what, 30-something years worth of learning into
8 weeks.
8 weeks. Jesus.
Yeah, they spent 8 weeks with me. Yeah. And I am also currently in the process of, testing out an in-person weekly event that I'm hoping to launch in the next few weeks as well.
Well. I will keep my eyes peeled.
Yeah.
This will be coming out this week, but we might have to do an update when the in-person event starts.
Yeah.
Share it with everyone.
Cool.
Thank you so much again, Jazz. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Same.
Thank you, my darling.